ethics and veto rights and potentially liquidity preference, whatever, they got to get their money back first, right? One way or another. And so it is important to come. You still got to beat a certain kind of amount of logic. So I think you have to be careful in terms of, when you raise money, I think you raise enough to get you to the next stage, and then hope that your valuation will increase enough that the next piece isn't that painful.
I want to bring you in, Matt. One thing that Greg said, which was, if you have investors who say, where are your 10-year cash flow analysis, why are you not showing year two revenues, you may have the wrong investors. But at the same time, the previous question, you said, go out, extend your cash in your runway, and get some revenues early. So how do you square off because for an entrepreneur, it's all about the compromises. How do you square off the fact that good investors recognize you don't need to have revenues in year two, but at the same time you're saying, get revenues early, extend your runway. And there's a real tension there that an entrepreneur has to balance. What's the answer?
So I don't think it was me who said, go get revenues early. I think that came very good. But I mean, and I think the answer about get revenues early really depends on the business you're building, right? Some businesses you can go get revenues early. Some it doesn't make sense, and actually it's exactly the wrong way to think about it. I mean, in a bunch of kind of consumer web businesses, actually get to scale and prove engagement before you've really spent a lot of time worrying about monetization. Because if you have scale and engagement at scale, and the list of success stories here, kind of the Facebooks and so on, is long. If you can build engagement at scale for consumer businesses, you don't have to worry about revenues. Now that's clearly very, very different if it's an enterprise software company, where, to be honest, if you can't sell anything, you haven't validated the product's useful. There's no real meaning to engagement unless you're an open source enterprise software business. So I think that would really be
sorry,
Just getting back to the valuation question. Probably any VC would push entrepreneurs into valuations are not important. But I understand that valuations are important, as Greg made the point, for entrepreneurs. And there's a science to define the valuation. But in Ukrainian reality, it's more of a dark magic. And at the end of the day, it's not what you're worth; it's what you can negotiate.
It's not just the Ukraine.
Yes. So for the avoidance of doubt, maybe we can just share what should an entrepreneur at a seed level founding team expect to have to give up in his first couple of rounds of outside investment as a percentage of the business?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me, or you can't hear me?
I should
use mine, honestly.
Can anyone else hear us at the back? Okay, here we go.
So my question really, to help you entrepreneurs set your own expectations as you go out as founding teams to raise money. Generally, how much of the company will an outside investor want to take at a founding round of finance or seed round of finance?
I mean, I think it does vary quite a lot. I think probably the range is from sort of 20 to 40, probably about in the middle. As someone said earlier, if an investor says they need 50-60% of your business, then there's something wrong. But I think you've got to expect you can probably give away 30% if it's really early stage. But it depends. It depends a lot. But I'd say that's about the right ballpark.
I think my only other comment on the valuation side is even as an entrepreneur, put yourself in the shoes of the people you're looking for funding from and work backwards a little bit. You have to just say, what could this exit for and how? And then back up to how many more rounds of dilution do you require to get there? And then if you're talking proper institutional VC, they're going to look for 10 times, more or less. And if you're looking for an angel, they might be happy with more like 3 times. But that's rules of thumb. But I think more important than figuring out the valuation is think about it from the perspective of the people you're asking money from.
Ukrainian perspective on this?
Yeah, well, investors in Ukraine tend to, like to acquire some control packages, like 51%. But I don't think entrepreneurs like that, and I would even say more. Entrepreneurs should not give out more than 50% to the investor, because otherwise their motivation will be hurt. And motivation is a key thing when building an international business.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Max just now said, so that people in Ukraine, investors in Ukraine still think in terms of the Ukrainian realities, and yes, they have tendencies to try to squeeze as much equity as possible, but in our case we fully understand the importance of having your founders and your other members of the team motivated and incentivized, and therefore we try to put ourselves in their shoes and to look at this from their perspective and take into account the future round valuation that will also take place. And therefore we are very realistically in such situations, and we try and look at this from the perspective of the founders. And our aim is at the end of the day that both of us and the founders are happy with our agreements.
There's an old line which is, tell me the number and I'll tell you the terms. So it's one thing which is, how much you're going to pay and what's the business worth and what's the dilution, but those are only kind of some of the questions you want to be asking. And I come back to saying this guy or woman is sitting on your board. There are going to be control provisions there. They're going to be sort of a whole pile of other terms which actually are in everyone's best interests. I mean, it's not like this is sort of investors screwing you. This is about a set of terms which make sense for both sides and also which protect the investors' money and ultimately protects the best interests of the company if things go wrong. But valuation is important, but it's certainly not the only important thing, and it's probably not the most important thing. I mean, it's a very crude statement, but you may not get the best terms from the best investors. The best investors actually know they're getting you value, or hope they're going to get you value, and if the match is there, if the fit is right for your business, be broad-minded.
Sorry, the Sarina has spoken and we have to move to questions. So perhaps the floor, if you've got any questions, take advantage of this exceptional panel. Any questions?
You want to scream out the question?
You have mentioned that the valuation is important, and basically, what about the innovation? The innovators of that idea. So is it more important than valuation? Yes, and why?
To play back the question, valuation is important. How important is innovation in the proposition as well?